you generated $250,000 with a selfie. Brett Kauffman, welcome to the It's Not That Deep podcast, brother.
I appreciate it.
It's been a long time coming, man. We've been trying to schedule this for a very long time. I'm going to take the blame for that. I've just been swamped, but it's amazing to have you here, man. We met at one of Melitza's Epic Talks events. And, you know, shout out to Melitza. I want to start this off by giving a shout out to Melitza and what she's done with Epic Talks, because it leads to relationships like this and me meeting amazing people like yourself. And it's what this is all about. We live in Miami. We're meeting tons of crazy, cool entrepreneurs all the time. And I want to kind of give you the floor a little bit to introduce yourself and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I do that, I remember our first time we actually, I think, met was at the obstacle course.
Right.
Yes, you and Jamie were both there. I remember Jamie crushed it on the telephone pole.
Yeah.
So for those that weren't there, we had to climb up this telephone pole which just had the handles and then balance on the top of it like 2 feet on a small surface and jump to like a trapeze bar.
It was crazy.
Terrifying. Like I went up the first time, I was like, can't do that. Then I ended up going up again. But yeah, Jamie was a beast at that, so shout out to his athleticism.
It's so funny, and I hope I don't offend anyone with this, but I call those types of things white people activities. When you put yourself in just extreme dangerous situations for no reason other than just to have thrill and joy and adventure. But it was really fun. I loved that day. It was so cool connecting with some of the people from Melitza's inner circle and you know, getting to know some of you guys. So yeah, that's right. That is exactly when we first met. But talk to me, man. So you are an email marketer and copywriter. You run Wellspring Media. What is that? What do you do?
So we are the company that you call when your emails are stuck in spam and you want to get them into Gmail's primary tab so you can have more eyeballs on your emails so you can make more sales.
Beautiful, man. I like that tagline. You got it like down to like even less than an elevator pitch. What a beautiful slogan. And that's such a big problem, right? In kind of the marketing world is, you know, you gung-ho, you're ready to go, you want to start your email marketing, you know how valuable it is to have a list, and then you start to send some out. You know, people start with something like MailChimp, which I'm sure you have a lot of opinions on, and then they get stunned as to why are all my emails not even delivering. So how'd you get into this anyway, man? What made you get into the email space? Like, how does that happen?
So completely fell backwards into it. Before I became an entrepreneur, I was in bipartisan pro-Israel lobbying for half a decade. And it's just as much of a mouthful as it sounds. What my job was I was working for an organization that's job was to strengthen the U.S., Israel, and her allies through lobbying Congress to pass legislation. Okay. And so my job was to cold call, cold email, cold text everyone across Florida, and then set up my own meetings and ask between $1,800 to $100,000 first time meeting them. Wow. And they
that's a big ask right away, yeah.
And unless you gave it the 100K mark, you didn't even get a tax write-off. It was just like, thank you, you know, one of those things. Mm-hmm. And what I quickly learned, and what I got good at, was writing emails that got people to respond. So before even knowing what email marketing was, I was like, how do I get this person to get back to me? Because when we were pitching this, we would have to pitch it to someone as Republican, like as red as a Republican are, or as blue as a Democrat, but the same
messaging.
Yeah, it's the same offer, but it has to be said differently if like you and Jamie are on different sides of the aisle, so to speak. And that's where I understood copywriting, using words to sell, and then making sure someone replied to my email to book meetings, which is deliverability, which we can get into.
Well, I've told you this before, but I mean, I have just so much respect for copywriting as a craft, as an art, because like at first when I got into business, you know, however many years ago, I didn't even know what copywriting was. I spelled it wrong. I spelled it like you probably hear it all the time.
The legal way.
The legal way. I'm like, like I guess I need copywriting for my website, and like people make fun of me and stuff. But anyways, I remember learning a little bit about it, and people talking to me about these sales letters, and learning from, I don't know, if it's Dan Kennedy or you know, these types of people, and I'm just like, wow, this is some interesting stuff. Like, who the hell is going to read all of this?
Yeah.
Right? That was like my first thought. But then I found myself for certain coaching programs and things that I was being marketed towards, that I was reading them. And I was like, no, like this person's like one by one hitting all of my objections, all of my desires, all the psychological triggers. So what do you think it was that made you good at that to begin with? I mean, like, you had to have had some kind of skill in writing, in sales, and persuasion to get people to click another email that, again, probably would have ended up in spam.
Yeah, I think for me, and this feels good for anyone that grew up in the same way, I actually grew up as a terrible writer.
Okay.
Like, I did not do good in English. I had to flirt my way through with the teacher in order to get a passing grade. It was not good. But what I was good at was sales, and when I was doing that job I was just describing, after every meeting I would come back and I would just write down everything that they said, their objections, why they invested, why they didn't invest. And what I started to do was just create a running doc of that. So when I started to write emails, I just pulled from that doc. And then when I became an entrepreneur, I would take a copywriting course, but when I was on a sales call, now I would just record the call. And then I would transcribe the call, put into otter.ai to get the full transcript, and then mark up the page. Like if it was green, it was their hopes and dreams. If it was red, it was fear. If it was blue, it could have been something that they like have a question about. And I just started organizing Google Docs. And then what I found got me good at it was that I would just pull what they said and say, well, if 10 people bought with these common similarities, why wouldn't the next 10? So this just became my master doc.
Nice.
So I learned later how to craft a well-written sentence. But from the beginning, I was like, let me just write down literally every single thing they said, pro and con of why they did or did not buy from me.
That's interesting, man. I've never heard like the marking up like that. That's really cool. So what were those again? You said there's fear, there's...
Fear is red, green is like money and hopes and dreams, and blue would be like a question where you kind of, like an objection, a question. Anytime I hear them be like, can I have clarification? Or like, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I did not say something cleanly enough to
them.
It
was more like a logistical thing. It was more like they're just trying to get clarity on like what you're saying, as opposed to more like a positive or like, okay, exactly. That's a really cool framework, man. I'm going to start doing that.
Yeah.
So like if anyone listening today, record your sales calls, transcribe it with Otter AI, and then mark it up. Like that's like Tom Brady watching game film. That's you going back and studying your craft. So I like that. That's already, I mean, we're only a few minutes into this pod and getting insane value, man. So
we're done. We can leave.
That's it. We're done here, guys. Thanks for coming to It's Not That Deep. No, but it's cool, man. I really like that kind of, you know, you've taken that and now you've created a whole agency out of it and you're doing this for so many clients. And, you know, I was checking out some of your results and, okay, you've got some crazy case studies and things that you've done for clients. One of them is you generated $250,000 with a selfie. I want to talk about this. What did you mean by that story?
So in that instance, we understand that it's being personal with someone that gets them to buy. And so one of the things we love to do is with clients is that you want to make it as personal as possible. So with the selfie, as an example, we had a picture taken and we had them send it out to everyone. And the best thing is nowadays you can do this so much easier than we did. You can leverage AI. So you can leverage the picture being sent to someone and then have the AI actually change it to be like, hey Deepak, hey Jamie, all like just quick little change of it. And you can just send it out over and over and over again, but it feels personalized. So again, going back to our previous example, I knew exactly what they cared about, what their pain points were, what they wanted to be solved. And now, well, beforehand, we just had to like have the person re-record every time, which is too much time.
Yeah.
Now you can just plug into AI and just really fast. So that's how that one happened.
That's really cool, man.
Yeah.
I like that. Now that's kind of even morphing into video now. And like the AI is like changing the landscape from a whole. I was gonna ask you this later anyways, but since we're already on the topic, how are you finding, you know, all of this AI stuff impacting your industry?
So I love it because it really helps get rid of those people that are not taking it seriously and enhances if you are taking it seriously. At the stage we are with AI, it will produce B, C+ copy. Just like a good prompt in and out, right? Plug it in chat, get out the results. For you to get to A, you still need to know how to string together the ideas, have the big idea behind it. So what we're doing is that we're taking our frameworks and we're putting into ChatGPT to shorten our writing process. It doesn't replace the process. It makes our research faster, and it makes the first draft faster.
Right.
But what takes it from okay conversions to phenomenal conversions is a great story. And until it knows how to write fantastic stories, you still need to engineer that. You still need to make sure that you can tie it together to make the person feel like they're reading a movie when they're reading your emails, your ads, your sales pages.
Yeah, and it's injecting that emotion into it, and that's kind of very similar to like the model of what we do with our clients.
Exactly.
You know, it's the same kind of thing, just in video format as opposed to written. And what's really cool about like tools like ChatGPT and all this, you know, these things that are coming out is that there's a lot of hype and talk about it, and there's fear around it as well, like is it going to replace me, this, that, the other thing. But at the end of the day, you do need that human touch to like people feel that, you know a tweet that's going to perform that just comes from actually telling a real raw story versus something that this been cooked up through ChatGPT. You can feel that. We can still tell the difference. Now the gap is closing.
Yeah.
I will say that, but I really liked your answer there. That having that attention still is like that extra sauce. It's the spices on top that you need. So that's really cool, man. You've got a bunch of other crazy ones. One here's how a single email about olive oil made me $43K in a week. Let's talk about the $43K in a week, because that's impressive.
So my partner, John, so we have an email list of 43,000, and he loves olive oil. Came from one of our incredible clients, Casandrino's Olive Oil, who when we worked on their larger project, did about $1 million in a month for them through their email list. But this one was an affiliate email, meaning from Casandrino's to our own list. The reason why it did so well was the story. The story was that John was at his house. His friend came over because his friend was leaving, wanted to put food in the fridge before he left. And he was like, oh, I have this olive oil you have to try. And so then John tried it and he was like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. And then wrote his list about how delicious it was. And then they bought. Why did they buy? There was the trust there, and it was the story. Not like, this thing's great, here's my experience. My friend came in, barged into my place, demanded I try this. I was hesitant, it blew my mind, now you have to try it. You're getting authority that's recommending it to someone else to buy it.
That's really interesting, man. It's that story selling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's something that you can kind of draw along so many different industries. And that's why I think it's really cool hearing about how you go about it and how we go about it, because there's a lot of similarities and kind of overlap with it. It's just a different vehicle, a different medium, right? What we're doing is so focused on the short form video, but the principles are the same. And that's really interesting, man. While staying on kind of this whole email marketing thing, for people who are just kind of starting out, now I'm going to be completely honest with you. Like, I'm asking this for me.
Yeah.
We don't have an email list.
Okay.
So we're kind of like the opposite. Like we over-index on service delivery for our clients and just collecting case studies like Infinity Stones, and we're doing just crazy things for our clients, which I'm really proud of and happy about. But we don't have an email list. All right. I've been on hundreds, if not thousands, of sales calls at this point. I have a lot of emails, but I don't have anything to send these people. Where does one start crafting an email marketing strategy?
I mean, for you guys, the easiest thing is transcribe your videos. Your content is so good when they watch you online. Dude, transcribe that, piece it together, meaning clean it up, the ums or whatnot, just make it sound nice. That right there is an 85% of your email. Because if someone's resonating from it on social, they're going to resonate from it on email.
Interesting.
The difference with email is that you don't run the risk of, God forbid, your Instagram being shut down for whatever reason, because it changes so fast now.
Seriously.
And you have ownership of it for life.
That's the beautiful thing. I mean, one of the people in the space, I'm not sure if you know Phil Rivers. Yeah, so Phil Rivers
He's a client of ours.
He's a client, no way.
Yeah, back in the day. We met Phil in Nashville in 2000.
Oh, that's like a crazy small world. He was a client of ours as well, and still a really good buddy of mine. I love Phil. I got nothing but praise for that dude. But yeah, we worked with him, and like I've learned so much just casually observing from the distance about email marketing and stuff. And he puts out all these tweets all the time about like email marketing and the copy and everything that's involved with it, right? But yeah, it's ownership.
Yes.
If Zuck wants to shut down your accounts tomorrow, are you leaning too much on social, and do you want to run that risk? I'm scared of that. You know what I mean? If that happens to some of our biggest clients, or it happens to our accounts, we're gonna have to kind of scramble and get to email. So that's something I've always found, with podcast listeners, with an email list, you own that. That's something that, doesn't matter if everything else shuts down. As long as I have an internet connection, I can get my message out to my people. So that's a beautiful thing. But in terms of strategy, like let's say someone like myself comes to you, what are kind of like the first few questions you ask to get like a better understanding of what type of content to make anyways?
Yeah, so what do you think would be interesting for your audience to know, like all the dirty secrets of getting into the primary tab and making sure that people read?
I mean, whatever you're willing to share,
I always like to ask first. I'm not sure, but because the content, so we started out as a copywriting agency, and we've been doing that for over a decade. And I will go on record, like I am now, and say, if your email doesn't deliver, it does not matter how good the copy is. So we've actually shifted to being like, how do we make sure the deliverability, which means getting into the inbox, is so damn good and so high? Because then, great.
Then it's a numbers game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you need both, but if you just focus on copy, so because we were just on a call with a client. This was a sales call. Now he became a client an hour ago. And he was saying, my open rate's like pretty good. Open rates are a misnomer, which means if you're like, I have even a 50% open rate, people are like, I'm the king. Okay, but what it really comes down to, a successful list is broken up into hyper segmentations. What that means is, let's say you have 100,000 people on your list. Okay, and let's say you have, what you really want is that each person is probably slightly different. So what we do is we categorize it. So you could have 10 lists of 10,000 under your main list.
Okay.
So instead of emailing everyone, you have automations.
You're breaking it up into, you're testing it out with a group first. Okay.
Because each automation is slightly different, because that person could be a beginner, more advanced, farther advanced, the hottest person, and you have to talk to them slightly different. It could be a mom trying to start a business. It could be someone our age trying to scale. Like, you can't have the same email to them. So your open rates are actually, like, if you mail it to your entire list, you're missing out on a lot of opens. If you break it up into tiny subset lists, then you get higher open rates because Gmail's happy with you, because it's going to land in primary because you're mailing to a small amount but high opens versus a large amount and low opens. And then you get people excited to read from you because they know your email is specifically tailored to them. And therefore, they can be like, what's the next thing?
Cool. So without getting too technical, are you creating a bunch of separate domains? So like if I have deepsocialbrands.com, that's what we use for our whole team, for our internal inbox, all that type of thing, right? If I have an email marketing team, is what they're gonna do is create like Deep Social Brands Brett or Deep Social Brands Inc. And like all these different domains to send out, and like how does that work?
That's a fantastic question. You always want to have different domains. It depends on how many you want to have. So for example, anyone that's not your super hot buyers, and the way you know that is with tracking you can have in your email service provider, we recommend sending them to a different domain, and then sending it, so a different email is going to be emailing them different domain. Why? Because it protects you. Well, you
can't burn your main one, which would screw up a lot of operations, right?
Right. For those that don't know what that means, burning your domain would mean I couldn't even email you if we're in the same company, because it just won't get delivered.
Yeah.
And that's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
So what we do is we take our ice cold, meaning someone hasn't opened in 60 or 90 days, put them in a separate domain, email them differently. If you're hot, you can stay on the main domain. If you're medium, depending the overall list size, you can be on that one. But exactly, you want to have different domains, and you're emailing them differently to protect yourself.
I like that. So the segmentation, having different domains, and tailoring the messaging for each as well, because you want to keep Google happy. So that's really interesting. Is there any other like kind of high level things you want to share about that?
Yes, and this will piss off all the setters in this space. But there's one of my favorite things. Last month we took a client from 35,000 to 70,000, all from people on his list. So that was 16 sales. Last month was 8 for context. 7 of those people came through something called browse abandonment. Now, some email service providers let you do this, where you can have automatic follow-up go to someone that clicked the link but did not take action, meaning book a call or something like that. It's different than abandoning cart, where they have in their checkout but don't do anything. This is, let's say it's a sales call. I click the link to go to your calendar, don't do anything. An automatic trigger emails go out to you that will never stop until you respond. You can set up that way, and the email will never forget to send like a setter could. And the 7 people got this follow-up sequence and, oh shit, I need to book a call, went back, booked a call, became a client.
Wow, so that little tweak and automation right there.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, sorry setters, appointment setters out there, that kind of makes you redundant. That's
I don't have to pay the email. Yeah, the email, I don't have to pay it. It just does its job, you know?
That's really cool. Is there, if you're allowed to talk about it, is there a certain software that you use that you recommend for this type of thing?
So Go High Level is great. ConvertKit is great. ActiveCampaign is great. MailChimp is shit. Don't do MailChimp.
I learned that the hard way once.
That's the hard way. But those 3, Klaviyo is really good, but Klaviyo is more for e-commerce
Phil
stores.
Rivers was always talking about Klaviyo. He was a Klaviyo wizard.
Yeah.
That's
the king of Klaviyo is Phil Rivers.
But yeah, so we just got on Go High Level, so that makes me feel really good. And we just started, like we cleaned up our whole funnel and everything, and I'm proud that we're finally launching all that. And these automations and stuff, like honestly, like as a business owner, up until now, we've just done things such a scrappy way. It's like, hey man, here's my number, we'll get on a call. Let's meet for a bagel in Brickell. Like whatever it is, right? Like I've just been doing it kind of the janky, scrappy way, right? But now turning this into an actual company, not just a business, a small business, I'm now geeking out on things like this. Like I'm so interested in the back end stuff. I'm like, oh, it's really cool how like one little trigger can do this, and these 7 emails get sent off, and then this can help for no shows, and I can see how it all connects, and it's like this like Matrix, and I feel like Doctor Strange. Just like I'm like, this is just so cool how it all connects. But no, the email marketing piece is huge, man. But I like how it all syncs up. You got the copywriting, the deliverability is important, the softwares that you use. But how important is the strategy to all of this, right?
100%.
Like, where do you, how do you view the strategy on this? Because a lot of this stuff is like technical, like someone's in there building out these flows and stuff, right? Yeah. But like the strategy of it all, like how do you approach that?
So same way you would approach a sales call with someone that doesn't know you, where you have to build a rapport, build a relationship. So your first few emails, especially if you're doing an opt-in, you have to give them immediately what they want. Give them immediately what they ask for, otherwise they're gonna feel duped. And they're like, why am I here? So what you want is your opt-in to solve the problem. So that first email needs to be like, hey, here's exactly the thing you asked for. And then the follow-up second email needs to say, did this solve your problem? And if it didn't, what else do you need for me to solve it? Because you gotta build that good trust like from the beginning.
Yeah.
After that, the strategy is, hey, here's other ways I can help you, and here's more about me. Tell me about you. Like you do on a sales call.
Yeah.
Understand their pain, build a relationship. And then eventually what you wanna do, what we always tell our clients in the first week, you have to pitch them. Because you already built trust, and you want to make sure that they're going to be used to reading your emails, used to getting value, used to an opportunity to learn from you. I have a mentor that says it's unethical if you truly believe you can help someone to not pitch them.
100%.
So if you wait too long, they're going to be like, what do you want from me? You're not telling me anything. So in the first week, we build trust. We solve their initial.
There's too much jab, no right hook. Like, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I get it. Sorry, continue.
No, saying so the formula is like first 2 emails solve the initial problem. The third to fifth email is like building rapport, meaning a little bit about you, a little bit about them, explain how you can help them with other problems, and then going right into the main offer that you have.
Got you. Yeah. $75 million generated for your clients so far. I'm sure that number's probably even bigger now, but bro, that's crazy. Let's talk about that for a second. From a high level, I want to kind of hear your business journey as a whole. What are some of the highlights there of working with clients and making that much money for them?
Yeah. I would say my partners are probably the best highlights, because I have two partners that are not only just phenomenal writers, but incredible humans. And what I enjoy is that our space can be like pretty bro-y from time to time.
Yeah.
And these guys have taught me just how to be like such a great gentleman, and how to like be more in touch with my emotions, which brought out being a better writer. And what one of my partners loves to say, like, read between the lines better. So what is this sentence actually trying to tell you? What's the meaning?
Not just the words on the email, but the intent, reading between those lines. I like that a lot.
And the way I pitch is different than John, as an example. John's a founder. He's a best-selling author 5 times over. And when he pitches, it's coming from like more of it's like a soft pitch, knowing I can like help you, where mine, which I tailored it differently, it used to be more like analytical. Here's exactly like the process. But with his, you can feel like the emotions, the story behind it.
Yeah.
So I learned so much how to incorporate beautiful stories into how I communicate now, because he literally gets paid to travel around the world telling stories.
Yeah.
So that has been a huge driver of our success, because our clients come to us for personality driven copy and emails, because they know that once it's delivered, then it's about great copy, and great copy is great stories.
It's establishing that trust with people, because you're already starting off the relationship with someone. When you get an email, or anytime you opt into something, you're already starting it off on usually not the best foot. Yeah. You're already like, look, I'm asking for something from you. I'm asking for probably one of the most intimate parts of your phone is to be in your email, which all of us entrepreneurs are refreshing like
all the time,
crack all day.
Yeah.
And you know, you're in there and you're fighting against that unsubscribe button. Yep. You're fighting against their time. You're fighting against all these other social media apps for attention, and the thing that's going to get them to actually stay with you. And I know this because I've stayed loyal to there's a few things I'm subscribed to that I just will never unsubscribe to, even if I don't open every email or read each one. When I do, I get so much value from it, and it invokes such an emotion in me. And that's really kind of the next thing that I wanted to talk about here, which you already touched on, but everything boils down in this sales game of, you know, fucking making these decisions based off fear or based off some sort of emotion or logic, right? Like, hey, this like makes sense for me right now, and here's why. So that's something that I've seen time and time again come up in my business journey. Now for you, you're having to tie, like, you know, with all the stuff that you're doing, you're having to tie the service delivery, which we know is out of this world, back to kind of the OG skill set of sales, right? So you're pitching all the time, you're getting clients. You said just an hour before this, you closed the deal, right? How are you balancing kind of being doing the sales, and then also the integrity of keeping the actual craft of service so top tier?
That's a great question too. I struggle with that. And what I recently rediscovered was, like, I want to be very hands-on on the deliverability side, because it keeps me as fresh and sharp as possible.
You get more reps.
I get more reps. I get to understand it. I get to get in the weeds. And some of the best closers that I know, it's not following a script. It's because they can explain all the technical stuff to you and hold space for you to overcome objections and make you feel safe. Because when you combine those two things, at that point, it's just, you may not trust me, but I gave you all the information, and I'm holding space to overcome your objections. So it helps with close more deals. So now I have one of our VAs is phenomenal. He helps me a lot on the deliverability side, but I always make sure I'm hands-on on that front, because I want to know what's changing with the algorithm, what's changing with the spam filters, and I'm always testing, so I can go to clients and just show them, here's our list of 43,000. Here's how we went from 20% open to 60% open.
Wow.
Here are the changes. Here's what didn't work. Here's what worked well, and that's the best case study you can ever give someone.
Of course, and people can feel that and see that hey, you're not just this guy who's paid to close.
Yeah.
You actually are in the trenches, you know what's happening, and the industry is changing all the time.
Yes.
There's always, I mean, even we've got some guys who send out some emails for us, like cold traffic type of thing, and it's crazy to hear like the deliverability issues can happen one week and then next thing everything's fixed and then there's workarounds and all this stuff. But I like to hear that they are actually in there getting ahead of these problems, like because they're gonna exist regardless. So I loved your answer there, man. I want to switch gears a little bit. I know we were talking very, very marketing stuff on this podcast today, but that's not all you are, man. You are a salsa and bachata dancer. We've talked about this a few times as well. You like to keep things spicy. You like the Miami lifestyle. Yeah. You like the odd Latina. Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about how you got into salsa dancing, my friend.
Also, so do you.
I mean,
yeah, this is what we can bond over very well. So when I was 24, I was in Fort Lauderdale, and I remember I was driving home, and I was on the phone with my parents, and I was just talking to them about whatever, and they brought up the fact, they're like, we can pay for your first round of salsa lessons or golf lessons. And I was, like I said, 24, single. I'm like, what is a better ROI for me at the time?
Do I want to hang out with crusty old men or no?
It's like, that's good for business, but... So I chose salsa, and I remember I found a great studio. He's still a good friend of mine. And I went to 2 classes, and on the second class, he dragged me out to a social. Now, a social is where you'll go somewhere where everyone's there to dance. Not like at a club, but like to practice dancing. Mm-hmm. So people walk up to, like a man generally will walk up to a woman, say, would you like to dance? It's like formal. And I knew like nothing. But I went, and I remember I saw this like big dude, like probably at least like pushing almost 400 pounds, like not someone you would think would have the confidence to go out there. And he walked up to the most gorgeous woman I've ever seen at that time and asked her to dance. Any normal setting, that person will get rejected so fast. But she like hesitantly is like, all right, fine, I'll dance with you. And they start dancing. And there's a part in salsa called shines where you're facing each other, but I'm not holding your hands. We're both like doing our own moves in the 6 steps. So I can do something different than what you're doing, but we're still on count with each other. And then I can pick you up and continue. And this man starts flapping his wings like a bird. And because that's part of shines, he's expressing himself. And you could just see the passion and confidence you had. And you could see she was eating it up. She was laughing. She thought this was the greatest thing ever. And I remember, and then the songs ended, and I think they ended up going home together because I saw them leave the venue together. I was like, okay, I see you. And I remember in that moment, I was saying, if this guy could do this, which stereotypically should not be able to do it, I can do the same thing coming from a white dude with 2 left feet. And I fell in love with the challenge of learning something new. But more importantly, I fell in love with the fact that in our jobs, we're very analytical. We always have to be on logically.
Yeah.
When I dance salsa and bachata, I don't have time to think.
No, it's flow.
It's all flow.
It's don't think.
Yes.
It's feel. All feel.
It's all feel.
That's so cool.
And I have to be able to communicate to my partner what to do without thinking what to do. And so I have to learn how to lead better, trust better, and like you said, just feel it out.
Yeah, that's one thing. First of all, beautiful story. Love that, man. When I lived in Colombia for a little while, so during COVID, I moved down there. And I was living in Medellin, and I had made a bunch of friends there. And I remember, I had this kind of story that I told myself always, this kind of limiting belief that like, oh, I don't dance.
Yeah.
Like, no, I grew up a football player. Like, I'd go to the club, but I'd do the most minimal, like I'm not dancing, bro. I'm not gonna do that because it was just, not something that I wanted to do to express myself. It was like maybe a gender stereotype in North America to like, hey, look, guys don't really dance. Like, I'm not gonna go out there and bust a move. But I come down to Latin America and it's completely different. All the guys dance. It's like from a young age, everybody, guys, girls, everybody's dancing. It doesn't even have to be this sexual thing. It's just a thing that you do. And everyone would get together in these like kind of evenings, kind of like a mini social, even like a few people just having drinks together, and they would just dance. Yeah. And the dancing was the thing. That was the thing that they were having fun doing. And I was like, they're like, oh no, come on, dance. And like some of my friends at the time were like, no, like you have to dance. I'm like, no, I'm good. Like I don't want to do all that. Like you guys have fun though. And it's like that kid who doesn't get in the swimming pool type of thing, right? And they're like, no, like you have to dance. It's not that hard. and they showed me a couple like bachata moves, and I just got really into it. And I was moving my hips, I was moving my body, I was like getting into it and feeling the music. They're like, you're really good. You naturally have rhythm.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, stop it, guys. Like, you're just being nice and stuff. But I never felt like I had more fun and more flow and more passion and enjoyment, everything that you described, than when I just, because what they would say, because I was so tense at first.
Yeah.
They're like, dude, let go, loosen up, just feel the music. I'm like, no, but I don't know what step to do. It's like, don't worry about the step. Just do what feels right. And it's like, that letting go is what lets you really enjoy it. And I found myself looking more forward to the dancing than usually I'd be more looking forward to the drinking or the, you know, whatever it is, like the show or whatever we're doing. But now I'm like, I just want to dance. And we'd be switching and all this stuff. And I'm like, this is the thing. I love it.
It's addicting.
It's very addicting, man. Yeah. We found ourselves in a great city for that as well.
Yeah.
Being in Miami, it's like Latin America in a lot of ways. That's kind of one of the last things I want to talk to you about on the podcast today, man. How long have you lived in Miami, and what significance does the city have to you?
Oof. So I haven't lived in the same spot more than 2 years since 2011. There's just been opportunities, just always moved around. So I was very good at meeting people, but it was hard for me to build deep, genuine relationships because I was like here and be like, see ya. Yeah. So Miami, I'm now going into year 3.
Nice.
I think year 3, yeah. And I love it. This city has everything, a combination of just everything you could want. We just talked about like the Latin culture. I tell you guys every time I see you to come do 420 yoga with me.
Yes.
Space.
Yes.
It's such a unique city, and I believe it's so worth the price of Miami because it's like you're paying for a mastermind where people I used to only see on the internet, now they're literally in a coffee shop in Brickell or here, and you can form relationships so fast with them.
Yep.
And so you have the business. For me, I'm Jewish, a massive Jewish population, a great salsa community, a great yogi community. I'm like, bro, this is just...
And it all comes together, and it's really cool, man, because you embody that. I mean, that's one thing that I really appreciate about you is that you are yourself and all those things, and you wear it on your sleeve. What you see is what you get, you know, and you know, whenever I see you at these events, it's so cool seeing you networking, you growing your business, your community, but also staying true to the things that like you're passionate about. Yeah. So that's incredible, man. We are gonna wrap this podcast up pretty soon, but I wanted to give you the space to do some shameless self-promotion of anything that you want to, anyone listening, it's not that deep audience right now, what do you want to share with them right now?
I'm gonna do 2 things. One, it's not as much a shameless promotion. The other one is, I'll do the business one first. Like I said earlier, we're the ones where we get your emails out of the spam folder into Gmail's primary tab. There is so much money left in your email list. And if you think your current open rates are good now, imagine if they were 5, 10, 15, 20% higher, because that just means more eyeballs on your emails. Easy example, if you have a 50,000 person list and you have 20% open, that's 10,000 people. If that goes to 25%, that's 12,500. 2,500 new eyeballs seeing your emails, where the only other way of getting that is paying for ads, or hopefully one of your reels takes off. The idea is that this is already on your list and you never have to pay for it ever again. And that's the easiest way to make more money. The second thing is something that helped me drastically through a period when I was depressed. It's called mandatory happy moments, and I still do this today. We all have a very stressful life, and I do mandatory happy moments, which means 3 to 5 times a week, I have something in the evening I have to go to, even if I have a shitty day. The reason for that is if I have a terrible day and I do a happy moment, worst comes to worst, my day's neutral. If I have a great day and a great thing at night, I feel euphoric. My day feels incredible. So for me, it's working out, it's salsa, it's yoga, it's just like doing things like this, it's epic talks, it's just something you enjoy that makes you happy, but you have to schedule it in your week and make it mandatory, because worst case scenario, it's neutral, best case scenario, you are living on cloud 9.
Wow, that is beautiful. I'm stealing that, Brett. That's amazing. Mandatory happy moments. I love that, brother. Thank you so much for coming on It's Not That Deep. It won't be the last time. Nope. I'm glad we were able to cover, a plethora of topics today, but it's not that deep.
It's not that deep.
Thanks for coming on the show, my brother.
Appreciate it. Thank
Where
you,
can
my man.
people find you?
Yes, Instagram, Brett, Brett Kauffman, Kaufman. The number's 26. I'll give it to you to drop in the show notes.
Exactly. Appreciate you, brother. Just remember, guys, it's not that deep.